Hello, my name is Friendly Man, and I'm here to give you an update on what I've been doing for the last 4 years. So the first thing I want to mention to you is I've been posting some videos weekly. I will be doing that for a couple months, so if you want to come back on Saturday, you'll see the new video. I'll be posting on Friday, but I don't know when, what time, so Saturday for sure, you'll see it. Okay, the second thing I want to talk to you about is about why am I making a video book? What video book are you talking about? Dun, 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 dun. Weapons of Chess. Okay? Weapons of Chess was created by Bruce Pandolfini. And it's a strategy guide on figuring out how to make your moves work better. Strategy is nothing confirmed, but it's a good way to continue your idea to move forward. So, and this is a book that shows you how to continue your ideas. I'll be posting one of these videos once a week. So the reason why I did it was because I had a young student that wanted to actually learn how to do more strategies. She just didn't want to read the book. And 4 years later, I'm finally finished. I'm going to be making some new videos on how to play chess. Those beginning videos that I already have, they're going to be redone in 3 dimensions. Woo! So get out your 3D glasses because you're going to completely enjoy the 3-dimensional stereo vision. Okay, so you're not here to hear about my recent stuff. My thumb tag said interviews with Bruce Pandolfini, and that's what you're going to get. So, without further ado, here is the interview. Who taught you how to play chess?
My mother taught me the moves and rules when I was about 9, but I forgot all about them. And I didn't really get interested in the game until I was about almost 14. I was walking through I was in the library walking through the stacks where all the books were, and I came upon the chess section. And began looking at the books, and I was fascinated. There were 32 books, I remember. And I just loved the names, Reshevsky, Botvinnik, and the little pictures of the chess positions, and the stories, the strange symbols. All of it seemed to really engross me. And I think I was allowed to take out 6 books at a time, and I couldn't figure out which 6 books to take from the 32. So I did the only logical thing I could do, and that was I went back, I think 6 times, and cleaned out the entire section that day. And I didn't go to school for a month. That's how I got into chess.
What made you fall in love with the game?
It's hard to say. Well, so many little things. Just about everything concerned with it attracted me. Maybe one of the greatest sources of interest was Bobby Fischer himself. I mean, he lived not far from where I lived. He was a few years older than I was, and I began reading about him, and it inspired me a lot. Of course, who could equal Bobby Fischer? A true genius. But I love the problems. The openings, the look of the pieces excited me. The chessboard itself. And at some point, I started going to Washington Square Park regularly, and that was great fun. That helped a lot.
Why did you become a chess instructor?
I became a chess instructor kind of by accident. I was involved in the coverage of the Fischer-Spassky match at PBS, and Shelby Lyman, the host of the show, was a really fine chess teacher, but he couldn't do that anymore. He was so busy and doing so many different things. He had no time for it. I think he asked me to take over giving lessons to 1 or 2 students, and I thought that would be ridiculous because I knew nothing about teaching. And I did that. I wound up giving a few lessons, and suddenly the opportunity was there. I got hundreds of names from PBS, potential students, the Marshall Chess Club, and even other sources. And I was able to put together a group of 15 or 20 students from that. I just began doing it and then enjoying it. And it took off from there. But I had no grand plan. It just kind of happened. Life took over. I didn't.
What is the best game you ever played?
Well, I'm not sure what the best game I ever played is, because I don't think I've ever played a good game. I mean, every game I've ever played, every chess game it has many flaws and inaccuracies and things I'm not happy with. So it's hard to pick out one game. I mean, I had memorable games. I wouldn't call them great games. Games that were important to me for this or that reason. I think the first time I was playing at the Marshall Chess Club, and I really began to think about a position, and I thought for about 50 minutes. I had never done that in my life, trying to find just the right move. And I found a little move that all it did was improve the position, but I knew it, or I sensed it very much to be the right move. And that brought me to a new level. So that's a memorable moment. I had probably memorable moments, but no great games.
I'm just going to reword this for a little bit. What is the most enjoyable game that you played? That's what I was more trying to go for.
I remember one game. It was during the. It was a big tournament in New York. It was the equivalent of the World Open, but it wasn't called that then. And like an idiot, I hadn't completed. I'd been accepted at graduate school, but suddenly I got a notice from my school that I hadn't completed Bio 101, and I wouldn't get my degree. And so I had to take that course during the summer. And my mother was so incensed she wouldn't give me the money to take that course. And there were only days left, and so I played in this event. And I wound up finishing second and tied for second and third. But I had to win this last round game. It was a horrible game where I was terribly outplayed. But I just kept fighting back and fighting back. And in the end, somehow I clawed my way through it, kind of like Botvinnik. And I won, which got me like $300, which enabled me to pay for the course and get my degree and be able to go off to graduate school. That was a very exciting game. I rose from the board, even though it was not a very good game, but just that I had survived the battle. Again, like my hero Botvinnik, fighting tooth and nail. That was very memorable and elating in every sense.
For beginners, what would you teach them first?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't want to say I teach any one thing to beginners, because the first thing I would do with a beginner is, that is assuming they know the moves and rules. If they don't, I have to teach them that. And I would do that as efficiently as I could. But what I would try to get them doing right from the start, whatever level they were at, is thinking on their own. So I'd ask a lot of questions. I'd want to instill in them the sense that chess thinking is very largely a matter of asking questions, generating information by asking logical, intelligent questions that unearth things about the position. And these are very good skills that you can derive from chess, that art of asking questions to find out things, to direct you to the right place. I think you can get this from playing chess. Many of the things you do in chess have carryover value to other areas of life. I want to get students excited about the game rather than teaching them anything definite first. If they know how to play, I may even start playing them a few moves. I'll say, let's play a few moves. I'll see how they handle the first 3 or 4 moves of the game, and I'll start asking them questions. It's often amazing, because through an hour session, in some lessons, I may ask hundreds of questions, and the student has no idea that has taken place, because they're integrated into the conversation. If a question might be, oh, you want to go there? Really? Really is a question. And so just It's very colloquial and conversational, but it's one question after the other. And that's how I want them to approach their own thinking, asking questions until they get to the place they want to be at. One thing you learn from chess is that you have that adage, if you see a good move, look for a better one. I think it goes back to Lasker, Emanuel Lasker, the second world chess champion. Whether or not he actually said it, he gets credit for it. But one thing you want a student to do is, after they think of a move, not to play it, a good move. They should get into the habit of trying to find a second idea that also solves the essentials of the position, or that deals with the same kind of things. Then they begin this comparison thing. And which move do I like better? Which does more for me? That's what chess thinking is very often, comparing ideas. So no matter how good your idea is, sometimes you just have to, don't play it, look for another idea that does pretty much the same things, and then start comparing. So that again is an area or a sector of chess thinking that's very important, and I think I want my students to start doing that fairly early on, comparing ideas.
Do you have any secrets overall to improve your chess game?
There is no royal road to learning. What works for student A may not work for student B or anyone else. I'd say this, though. You should take every situation with utmost seriousness. And all your practice sessions, play them for real. Because then you'll get so much more real-life experience. So treat your practice for real. Take it very seriously. Put your entire self into it. Really, don't treat it haphazardly or casually. That's one thing. Play often and seriously. I would say also, you have to get into the habit of not moving the pieces in your analysis. Analyze a lot, look at lots of problems. Never move the pieces, no matter how difficult it is. Just keep working at it. If you need to take a break, fine. You got to get into the habit of doing that, though. When solving problems, to that extent, it might be better just to look at the diagram without setting it up on the board, and you won't be tempted to move the pieces. So practice often, take it for real, give your full heart to it, and don't move the pieces. And love what you're doing. If you love what you're doing, it has to love you back.
Is there anything you can hurt your chess? I have also such as blitz.
Yeah, I mean, that's a misconception. Maybe there are, I wouldn't, I'm not sure where to go with this question. It's a good question. Playing too much blitz, for example, before a serious game would be bad, because it might influence your serious play. You might tend to move too quickly. So you wouldn't want to play a lot of blitz and then suddenly play a more serious, slower game, because you'll still be on the earlier time thing and you'll be moving too quickly. There's a good chance of that. Or too superficially. So it's a matter of sequence. Can you play blitz to advantage? Of course. When you play blitz, you play many games, many ideas are generated. Also, you find when you're forced to play with a time limit, you're much more focused. You're forced to be, otherwise you're going to forfeit. And some things may not come out unless you do have that composed, focused look where you're really striving. You can work forever and not get to an idea until you've passed a threshold of intensity. And so blitz can have value. Suppose you're studying an opening from a book, let's say, and you come to the end of your analysis, and now you want to generate some new ideas for thought. We'll play 100 games from that point. See what ideas, against other players, see what ideas, or a partner, what ideas are generated from that. And then you can look at them. Blitz can help you there. Blitz has a lot of value. Plus it's fun. Why should you not do something that's fun?
Mm-hmm.
But with that proviso or that restriction, don't play a lot of it before a serious game, because it may impart its superficial nature to the serious play.
Ever played giveaway chess?
Sure.
Do you think that's horrible to play just before you go into a serious game?
Yeah, I don't think you should do anything that may detract from your full effort in a serious game. If I remember Botvinnik's suggestions, he's the great chess teacher, in my opinion. He would train for a match very seriously, but he would always take a break before an important match in vacation, so he regains his strength and renews himself. So I think that's kind of key. You keep up your savor for something, your taste for it. You have to come back to the game fresh. Otherwise, you'll be stale if you're just doing chess all the time with no break. Take a vacation once in a while. Can't wait.
Okay, this is a long one. There is an old rumor: if you play someone really stronger, opponent, you'll learn nothing from the game. I was wondering if you agree with that.
I think if you play someone super strong and you don't get any explanations afterwards, you won't appreciate why he or she beat you. Yeah. But let's say you can talk to that person and ask them questions afterwards. You might gain a lot. You might have an insight that's invaluable. I think a lot of this comes from the thought that you should be dealing with problems that relate to who you are as a player. Therefore, it tends to be better to look at games played between a player of your strength and a strong player. Because the strong player will refute the play and show you what's wrong with it. If you look at games of two players of the same level, let's say your own level, mistakes might be made and they're not exploited, so where's the learning?
Okay.
So I don't agree with that. But you do want to make sure you get the kickback of the explanation or the clarification of what happened to some extent. So I think that the ideal games are not games played between, let's say, amateurs, and not games played between masters, but games played between a master and an amateur. Just the opposite of that contention. I think, yes, they can be very instructive, because then the mistakes you're going to make will be made, but they will be refuted, and that's the learning.
Mm-hmm. What is better to learn? A whole bunch of openings or mastering one opening?
I think you should do both. In the beginning, you want to acquaint yourself with lots of ideas and then see what you like. Too many of us begin studying an opening, not knowing what else exists. And we get stuck in a way of thinking which is not good for us, not consistent with who we are as people, our likes and dislikes and stuff. And we start playing things that make us feel very uncomfortable, in which we can't perform at our best. It's so unsuitable to our style. So you might want to know what's out there first. Play over a bunch of different openings, get a taste for this or that. Say, yeah, I like that. Let me see this. Oh, that's interesting. That's not so interesting. Then once you have some knowledge of what exists, then you can become more particular in your efforts and more specialized. Why become specialized before you know what's out there? That doesn't make sense.
What is the best way to train for a tournament?
Well, I think the best way to prepare for a tournament is to play some serious chess beforehand and have those games analyzed. You want to simulate game conditions. You want to practice under the same conditions that you're going to be playing under. Similar time controls. If you're playing a match with someone, perhaps, or you know that your opponents, you may want to get into some of the same openings or some of the same types of setups, if possible. If you're working with a trainer, that can be arranged. But you want your play analyzed. You want to constantly analyze what you're doing, trying to correct and better or solve some of the problems you're experiencing, if you can. A little bit at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day. And you can't become Garry Kasparov in a day either.
How many years did it take you to become a national master?
Well, first of all, I have to say I played ridiculously few tournament games in my life. I mean, maybe I played a couple hundred games, rated games. That's all. I haven't played much. I learned fairly late in life. I think By the time I was a late teenager, I was probably weak master strength, even if I didn't have the rating. We didn't have many tournaments in those days. Far fewer than now. It's so funny because maybe I played a couple hundred games. I think somewhere I can only count 185 games, but maybe up to 300, who knows, in my whole life. I have students who play that many in a year now. It was unheard of then. We know so much more now. Players have access to databases and the tools of our modern technology. They can learn so much faster. They learn so much earlier. In my day, there were very few young players going to clubs. It was really an anomaly. Now there are so many. You know, they're learning at 4 or 5 or 6. They have to be better players. The problem with learning when you're young is you have to play lots of adults, usually, and you have to lose a lot. And so that's very dissuasive. It's very discouraging. But if you can survive all of that battering, you're going to be much stronger. If you can get through that period of losing a lot, but gaining the experience from it, you'll be super stronger, much, much stronger. So that's the key. Being able to deal with defeat. But that's one of the lessons of chess. We all lose, no matter how good we are. And we have to go on and make the best of it so that we can win and gain in the future. You can even gain from defeat. I mean, in ways that are quite unexpected. The way you resign can be important. Certainly psychologically, if you resign in a way that betrays weakness, it's hard to play after that, in the tournament. But that's why you see a lot of guys resigning at a certain point when there's still potentially some play left. What they're really saying, in effect, I'm one of the guys. Yeah, you beat me this game, but I'm as good as you because I know I'm lost here. You're part of the group. So more than trying to be the best player, I think it makes sense to work at your game so that you feel part of the group. You have to be respected for your play. You're one of the top 20 players, one of the top 50 players. You're part of the group. Everyone has to respect you, win or lose. And so, some of that is dependent on how you resign games as well. Do you resign in a way that stations you well for the next games, or for the next tournament? Do you get something from it? Or do you resign in some way that detracts from your personal aura? People may not actually think of it that way, but unconsciously it comes down to that.
Okay, the last question. I hear there's an app coming out. Can you explain a little bit about it?
Oh, I've just done a chess app. It's a collection of 300 mates in one. The positions are, except for a few, are all taken from real games. And I kind of collected them from a game here, a game I saw there, or wherever, organize them in a certain way, and present them as a block. There are clues given if you should need it. I think it's good to do tactical problems whatever level you're at, no matter how good you are. We have examples of people like Tal, former world champion Tal. He would watch the beginner's lessons on television. Obviously, he was miles ahead of that. But he felt he got something from the way the material was presented. Maybe it allowed him to rethink things he took for granted. It's not that he was going to learn a lot, but it made him think about things differently. Not even so much the things that were shown, but it may have triggered thoughts quite unrelated that were helpful to him. And as far as doing simple problems, there's nothing wrong with doing, if you're an advanced player, doing 300 mates in one. It's how fast you do them, how easily you do them. When I used to look at problems, let's say playing through a famous book like Fred Reinfeld's 1001 Checkmates, let's say. I'd play through it and work my way through it. I'd go through it again. This time, instead of looking at a diagram and taking a minute to do a problem, let's say, I try to do it in 30 seconds. Then I go through it again. I try to do it in 15 seconds. I'd want to be so good I could look at the diagram and know the answer. And so there's nothing wrong with looking at problems you can solve quickly. Solve them even faster than that.